Hey guys, welcome to the Hurry Up. I'm Adam, and this is my friend Anthony.
What's up?
And today we're going to talk to you a little bit about some Houston Texans football. This is a new podcast that we want to start up and keep this on a regular basis kind of thing. I know it's a little bit unorthodox to start at the end of the year, but we hope you guys enjoy it a lot.
So we got a couple things to talk to you today about. We got some news pertaining to the team. Of course, we're going to talk about the game that's coming up on Saturday, what it means for the franchise, and what are some potential things that could happen during the off season. And let's go ahead and get on into the news.
All right.
And so the first thing I want to cover today is mainly the game and some of the thoughts, with the Oakland's quarterback situation compared to ours, and just the whole vibe of the game itself.
All right. So what's your take? I honestly think that we're very fortunate with the opponent that we got. I think that we have the easiest one. For us, it helps a lot that Carr is out. Obviously, it's a different scenario of Derek Carr starting. But I kind of like where we're at. We're at home. Don't have to worry about laser pointers this time.
I think we're in a good situation. I think we are definitely more fortunate to be in the position that we're in. I still don't think it'll be a home run like a lot of people are saying it is, or setting up where let the Oakland Raiders are an underdog. I think even with our quarterback situation, I think we're still the
You got
the
Kansas
underdog.
City flashbacks?
Because even though I do have Kansas City flashbacks, it's real bad. Like I'm hearkening back to last year, but I think with Brock Osweiler, his problems, and I was reading an article about this earlier too, is that Brock Osweiler throws not by the numbers. He throws a lot of outside routes to tight ends, which is not a bad thing. Some offenses really do capitalize on that and get down the field, but the problem is that the Oakland Raiders short coverage defense is actually really good. Where they lack is downfield movement. If you look, a lot of people can throw downfield on the Raiders, and Brock Osweiler does not have the accuracy or even the arm sometimes to even throw that far down to his receivers, and he gets picked off.
My problem is that sometimes he doesn't even give our guys a shot. He throws it downfield, and it's like 5 yards out of bounds. I mean,
Then that's what I'm saying too, is that a lot of that accuracy comes back to haunt Brock a lot. Now, what I do think will help us a lot in this game is the return of Lamar Miller. I think that he will help us set up a lot more play action against the Raiders, and hopefully our receivers are so open downfield that there's no way Brock can miss them, that they're that open. I think Lamar really does kind of stack that. Or if not, you have Lamar run the ball more. That way picking up these, 2nd and 5s, or real short yardage that Brock can capitalize on to really get downfield.
my only problem is that he'll have men wide open. He'll throw like 3 or 4 yards behind him, or he'll throw them stubbly passes that just seem to stay in the air forever. I don't know how many times I've seen a batted ball like deflected into the air. Oh, secondary interception on Brock.
Well, I can tell you it happened 2 times during that that Jags game that he got kicked out. I can tell you it happened at least 2 times
Definitely.
there.
And you could, and like you said earlier, you could definitely feel the presence of Lamar Miller not being felt the past 2 weeks. Alfred Blue is definitely not your top tier running back. I mean, he's it's pretty sad when we had to go do a QB sneak before the half and we couldn't trust our guy to just punch in a yard.
Well, and that's one of the other situations I think that we need to go into the offense really looking at is, we'll talk about what we need to do in the offense, I think, a little down the road. But I want to just touch on, since you brought out Alfred Blue. Alfred Blue is supposed to be our power back.
And I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard that a lot. And I don't think he's a power back at all.
No, Lamar is supposed to be our cut guy real fast. Blue is supposed to be our power back that can push his way through. And he isn't. He's really not a power back. He's slow in open field. He cannot push his way or move the pile at all. And that's one of the key things we need to look at going into the offseason is either getting a guy through free agency, getting a guy who's out there, which I can't really think of anybody out there on the market right now. Is D'Angelo from the Steelers, is he a free agent next
I
year?
have no idea. He'd be a good little pickup for your money, though.
Yeah. Or at least if worst case you don't have you don't have a power back and a running, at least you have 2 good.
I'd rather
running
give Akeem Hunt the ball, though, than Alfred Blue. Akeem Hunt will at least fight for the yardage.
I do, but I think Akeem Hunt is still a little too newish. I know this is his second year.
Yeah, he was off the practice squad last year. He came in. He'll give us some good hustle.
He'll give us a little extra hustle, but I don't think he's necessarily the answer. I think you need to go out and get that get that guy that's really going to help your team out. And I think that's something we need to pick up on the offseason too. Now, so we talked extensively about the offense, because that is a lot of problem on this Texans team is the offense. You've got your center guy, your quarterback not performing like you should, your running back. But the defense, I think, is going to be the key to this game for sure. If you look at the analytics, and I know yards total isn't exactly a great measurement for a defense, but I still think being first overall in that category is good, especially for this Texans defense, who's had a lot of injuries through this year. Merciless didn't play a couple games. Watt's been out this whole year. So, but I think this defense has really stepped it up. You've got a lot of good players in there. AJ Boye come out of nowhere to be this, all-pro, cornerback out of nowhere, playing great for us. Whitney Merciless, like I said, Clowney's coming out. You even got people like Scarlett, making the occasional play and stuff like that. Brian Cushing, while not playing at the top of his game, still playing pretty well.
I don't know if you saw last week's game. Did you see that statistic during the game where it said the last 4 Super Bowls, the last 4 teams that have been in the Super Bowl had number 1 ranked defenses? 2013 with the Seahawks, 14 with the Seahawks, and last year the Denver Broncos. I don't know, man. I'm just saying. That's a statistic. That's just a stat.
No, it's a stat, but I don't think we've got nearly the quarterback play to get anywhere near, or running back play to get anywhere near there. But that it is true that one of those things that they say that defenses win championships, and obviously the last couple of years that's been the truth.
I agree. I mean, you even look at the Eli Manning, the Giant championships that were strung up together. They were anchored by the big defenses that they had, with the breakout of Jason Pierre-Paul. And I mean, not to talk too much away from Houston, but there's been plenty of other teams that have proven that.
Well, and to talk away, from Houston teams, I think that the AFC doesn't excite me, if that makes any sense.
It is a pretty boring conference. It's like the Patriots and then like a big gap.
I know where it's going through,
You got to go in a Foxborough and you got to win.
And December, yeah. And they've had a really, really great season. I think they'll have a really, really great off-season. I don't think the AFC excites me. The NFC is what really excites me. That playoff, that race is great. But the Texans are fortunate to be in the AFC in the position they're in to face the Oakland Raiders. But you got to think, even if they win, this coming up Saturday game, who do they have next, right? You either face the Chiefs, I think, is what we primarily get, or the Patriots. But I think it's the Chiefs. And honestly, we beat the Chiefs this year in regular season.
Well, it's the biggest seed. The highest seed remaining is who the Chiefs will play, and the lowest seed is who the Patriots will play. We're the 4th seed. I believe Pittsburgh was the 3rd seed. Is that right? I think Pittsburgh could win. So, and if we win, then that means Pittsburgh would be forced to play Kansas City, and we would be the lowest seed remaining, being the 4th, so we would play the Patriots.
Well, I think either way, I think it's still a bad situation for us. I think even if you play the Chiefs are a much different.
And they're a big, loud home team.
Yeah, I think that either way, you're not in a good situation. Either way. No matter how much I love this team, and Adam's going to give me hell because he thinks I'm not a fan, but I think either way, even if you beat the Raiders, I think that's it.
I'm not faulting you for thinking that way at all. I mean, the only issue I have is that obviously we go to New England. That's an instant loss. I'm a big fan for the Texans. It's just, look at our track record. Bill Belichick's got our number, even with J.J. Watt in there, and obviously he's not gonna play. He's so good at taking people out of the game plan. But even Andy Reid, he's pretty creative himself. I mean, some of these plays he runs, he's better than the average coach for sure in the NFL.
Yeah, and I think that's why maybe I have a feeling it's either going to go down between either the Patriots and Kansas City or Patriots and the Steelers. That's how I think it goes. And I think ultimately, unless some crazy circumstance happens, I think the Patriots are having the kind of year where they're going to go the Super Bowl. They missed out last year. I think they're going to go this year.
I could see that. I had called a Patriot Seahawk rematch. I know you had a little bit of a different opinion.
No,
I think in the AFC, the Steelers pose the biggest threat to the Patriots, in my opinion. I think they have a very good offense.
See,
better than Kansas City.
Yeah, but Yeah, but their defense is
Yeah, for
lacking
sure.
for sure. And I think Kansas City has a better defense overall. I think they have I think on the offense they're just about as the Steelers. I mean, even if you look at last year, even the game last year, it was real close between the Chiefs and the Patriots. I think if you don't have the Andy Reid hurry up where you go, 2 miles an hour to your ball, I think they have a decent shot at taking a stab at that. The AFC is, like I said, not the most interesting. I think the NFC definitely has a better story this year. But just going back to the Texans,
Well, I mean, if you even look, our road to the playoffs have been pretty easy the past 2 years. I think it'll be a whole heck of a lot harder starting next year with Marcus Mariota. He had a great breakout season, in my opinion, this year, and it's only going to get better next year.
I think the Titans are real. I'm
not too concerned about the Colts or the Jags. The Titans are the team that I'm most afraid of in the AFC South.
It depends on the Colts, right? It depends on what they do. It depends if Chuck Pagano stays there and what he does in that organization, or if they decide they want to mix things up.
It'll be interesting because him and the GM both got a contract extension last offseason.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean anything, though. You can get a contract extension and get fired. Look at Jeff Fisher.
And even Chip Kelly. 4-year deals with the Eagles. He's getting paid by the Eagles and the 49ers right now.
Yeah, so contract extensions don't mean anything if you're not using them.
Yeah.
And I think Chuck Pagano, depending on what happens, could very well be gone maybe by the, and now, so I want to give a prediction, right? Let's go ahead and give a prediction on what we think is going to happen or what the score or, win or loss.
Okay.
Go.
I think it's going to be a close game. A lot of people think with Derek Carr and Matt McGloin both out that it's going to be a gimme win with Connor Cook. I think it'll be a little bit easier, but if you look at the stats from last week, he went 14 for 21 with 1 touchdown, 1 pick. Those aren't bad numbers for a rookie quarterback just being thrown into a game.
Well, especially going against your division rival, right?
It was against Denver, I believe. So in Denver's look at their defense. Those are I'll take those numbers. I'm thinking it'll definitely be a tough win. Rest assured, I'm fairly certain the Texans will find their way into the scoreboard this time. I have the Texans edging out a win just because we're at home. If we were in Oakland, I'd be a little bit more nervous because, honestly, we stood toe-to-toe with Derek Carr in Mexico City. We took a few cheap calls, and I'm not blaming the referees on the loss at all. We had our opportunities, and Brock just wasn't doing it. For a score, I say it's about 24-20 Texans.
24-20?
Yeah, if we scored any more than that, that would be a shock in itself, even if we did lose.
So, I'm going to play devil's advocate.
Okay.
I'm going to go ahead and call this one.
I know where you're leaning.
I'm going to call this one an L.
And I could see it going that way, too. Nothing surprises me with Brock.
I think Brock Osweiler, I think it's been a shit year for him. It's been very bad for him. Who knows if he comes back next year and does great, learn the offenses, learn all the ins and outs of it, like, Tom Savage maybe. I think it's a loss, and if I'm gonna be honest,
if you had Tom Savage, would this be a win?
I think I'd be a little bit more. I think I'd be a little bit more on board to say if it was a win if it was Tom Savage. I still don't agree that Tom Savage is the savior. We haven't seen a lot of Whedon, though, right? I haven't seen Whedon all this year.
This will be the first time he dresses up because there was a lot of reports saying that Tom's not even going to be active. So it's Brandon that's the backup.
They've called it. Tom Savage he's ineligible. So it's going to be Whedon. And we haven't seen him. I don't know what he's like. I don't know how well put together he is after being rested for so long.
I wonder how much action he's seeing in practice, too, obviously this week more so, but...
Well, I'd say that this week he's probably getting second team reps, and I'm thinking that Brock gets all the team 1 reps.
Yeah.
Which makes a difference. It really does. But I think Tom Savage isn't the white savior that everybody thinks he is. I think he's okay at best. I think really they need to figure out this position. But going back to the prediction, I say Brock gets 2 touchdowns. Maybe, probably at 1 touchdown. Lamar Miller gets a touchdown. So we're looking at 4. I say 17-21 Raiders.
Yeah.
I think Murray gets a lot of the reps. I think kind of like our situation. I think Murray gets a ton of the reps. Breaks a very wary defense, gets 2 touchdowns, and I think Connor Cook gets a touchdown. So I think 21-17 is probably what I'd say.
Yeah. My only concern is Lamar Miller going to be subbing in and out between plays? Like, is that ankle going to be nagging him this
Is
game?
he going to go out or be hurt or not be
I mean,
full
he's had
team?
2 weeks to kind of chill out, so I'm hoping that he can be in there a good 90% of the offensive snaps.
You know, we'll see. I don't know. It's very up in the air.
He's a game changer for sure. Because if you have Lamar, if you have not Lamar, if you have Alfred Blue in there most of the snaps, I'm not comfortable with that at all.
How many times does he run over 100 yards in games that he started first?
Alfred Blue?
Yeah.
I couldn't count. I don't have a number on standby, but I know he did last year against the Buccaneers. But I think he had like 30 attempts.
I'm saying this year. How many times do you think he's run over 100 yards in a game?
This year, I don't think he's done it at all. I think he's maybe had like 70, 80 yards.
And I think this is a problem in the league overall. But if you look at running backs, and especially Alfred Blue, there's no cuts. There's no going to the outside. He goes straight up the middle.
Straight into the pile.
Every time, straight into the pile. Every time. Gets 2 yards, maybe. And then we're stuck with this 2nd and 8, Which is not a good, it's not necessarily, or even not even an 8. Sometimes, he doesn't even get a yard, so it'll be 2 and 10, I think that's a problem overall in the whole league. But I guess now we're going to switch over to another topic we're going to talk about, and I kind of brought this up. I want to talk about a hot seat in the organization. So just looking at the Texans organization, who might be in the hot seat going after this game. And we already know from reports that Bill O'Brien is already in the hot seat right now as it stands, depending on what happens in this Saturday game. If they take an L, they're already deciding they're going to mutually part ways, and that's one of those things. I like Bill O'Brien. He's been there 3 years with us now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, 3 years.
I like Bill O'Brien, but with 3 years, with the way we've got set up, I don't know. Do you think that's a fair call to rush him out?
I don't necessarily agree with it. I mean, Gary Kubiak had 8 years, and he only took us to the playoffs like twice, I believe. I mean, don't get me wrong, he flipped the organization. I'll give Gary Kubiak a lot more credit. I mean, he took us from a losing organization and really kind of put us in somewhat of a relevant team. I'll take the Texans rap that we have now and our kind of team that we have built over a Browns or...
Well, anybody would take a team over the Browns.
I mean, anybody
would take a college team over the Browns. I mean, let's be honest.
That's awful. I don't. My biggest problem with him possibly being out the door is I don't see a whole big list of candidates. I've seen some reports about how maybe Sean Payton could be up for trade.
Yeah, but even
I don't
Sean
know
Payton,
how much that would cost.
because even Sean Payton said he's not leaving. Sean Payton's already put out a statement that he's staying with the Saints.
You
he's
can
not
stay, but if the organization says otherwise,
even the organization,
unless he doesn't want to coach again.
Well, even the organization's already put out statements saying Sean Payton's our guy. Which things
but
it's
could their
change.
Job. They're gonna field calls.
I'm saying things could change for sure, but I think what the reports are saying that he's staying there and he's gonna fulfill his contract. And then going back to what you said, there's not a lot of coaches. I mean, there really isn't. Who are you gonna hire? Gus Bradley?
Jeff Fisher, 7-9. I'll take 9-7 forever than 7-9.
Chip Kelly. You're gonna hire Chip Kelly. Who are you gonna hire? You're gonna hire
the only people that you just start looking towards assistants, in my opinion. Maybe like a Kyle Shanahan.
Kyle Shanahan would be good. Or you look at like a Don Capers.
Okay, no.
Why?
He was our first ever coach. I would not want to bring him back.
You don't want to go back to him? Why not?
No.
Go back to,
I mean, don't get me wrong. He had a lot of expectation on his shoulders. I'm not one of those people that brings people back. That's just, I don't know.
I know the organization has changed, but he still knows a little bit, I'm assuming.
Yeah, I mean, he's doing well, but I think a lot of it is Mike McCarthy over there in Green Bay, and Aaron Rodgers is just Aaron Rodgers. I mean, one of those rare talents at quarterback. If we had an Aaron Rodgers-esque caliber quarterback in Houston, I don't think we'd be having this discussion at all about Bill O'Brien being out the door. Winning solves anything, let's be honest. I mean, if we were 12-4, whatever, or 14-2 and had home field advantage locked up and first round bye, none of this would be set it all.
No, it wouldn't. But then again, you're not in that situation. You're in a wild card situation for what
In a weak division that got us
the
here.
second year in a row. When you
Yeah.
expected more from this team that's already been set up. I mean, some of this I place on Rick Smith, some of it I place on Bill O'Brien, but ultimately it's gonna come down on Bill O'Brien, right? The head coach is gonna take a lot of it. I think one of the things you're looking at, I don't think he'll ever join us, but do you go with like a Josh McDaniels? Do you hire another Patriots, player? Josh McDaniels has already got a lot of positions that they're clamoring for him.
But he's already tried the head coaching stint in Denver, and he just didn't really work out for him.
No, but he's
A
going
lot
again
of
though.
times people that follow other big name coaches just don't pan out. Bill O'Brien, I think, has been decent. I think he'll get calls for
Well,
sure if he does leave.
Bill O'Brien is trying to be Belichick 2.0 instead of being his own guy, right? I think that's some of what it comes down to.
Yeah, but he talks a little bit more in his press conferences. He's
And,
a little bit more entertaining.
Just about everybody talks more than Belichick and their stuff. Okay, so we talked about Bill O'Brien. Who else do you think is on the hot seat after this season?
I mean, a lot of people speculate that Rick Smith is on the hot seat. I honestly don't think he's on the hot seat.
See, now that's why I disagree with you, because I think he is on the hot seat. I think that,
I agree with you. I think he should be on the hot seat. I don't think he is, though.
You don't
I think
think
if
so?
he was going to be on the hot seat, he would have been fired with Kubiak. Why did we clean house and leave Rick Smith here?
because
That makes no sense to me. It's because he's making money for the team, and that's what Bob McNair wants.
he's making money for the team. That's what Bob McNair wants. But I think that Bob McNair kind of put his eggs all in one basket, right? So you get rid of Kubiak and you stick with Rick Smith. And then what does Rick Smith do? He brings in another head coach. Maybe they win some, games. They get to the AFC wild card twice. And then, Gary Kubiak goes out and wins a Super Bowl, right? So who was the right call on that, right? Do you stick? Who was the?
Some of that could have just been Elway. Yeah, like you said it. Elway just put together a better
that's
team.
Why I disagree with you on the Rick Smith thing. I think that depending on how this game goes, I think you bring in, because depending on how the game goes, depending on how Brock plays, he could be on the hot seat. I mean, you bring in a guy for his amount of contract, for his amount of money, and he doesn't perform well. And granted, some of that's him mixing with, gelling with the offense and knowing the offense, but I still think that's a big hit, playing how bad he was. It's not necessarily, it's a combination of things. It's him not knowing our offense and not having these skills, the basic quarterback, concepts down, throwing stance.
Do you think at all that it's possible that maybe our offense is just too complicated? Because I've heard a lot of arguments that quarterbacks are always, it's extremely difficult. I mean, I don't ever hear Tom Brady or Jimmy G saying, oh man, Bill Belichick is just way too complicated. Like, I've never heard that.
Yeah, I think we have a lot of cutesy plays, right? You have a lot of design plays that are kind of, they're trying to be like that college model, trying to be real cutesy, try to get people, fooled. And I think if you look at the Patriots, they're pretty clear-cut, strong. This is what we're doing. We're throwing it. They're not as complicated. I think it's both. But I think depending on how Brock plays in this playoff game could determine Rick Smith's fate going into next season. So if you have Brock, you have a bad game, this game, he goes out, you get your head coach fired. I don't think that Rick Smith is in charge. I think if Bill O'Brien goes out, Rick Smith is not in charge of finding that next coach, right? We can at least agree on that.
You think that's all Bob McNair?
Yeah. Or you promote somebody in your own building.
Yeah.
I think either one of those two.
Who? Romeo?
No, Romeo Cornell is not. I don't think he's a head coach material. I think he doesn't want to be a head coach. I think he's perfectly fine being the DC. I think.
Yeah. I told you before off the air, I think that Mike Vrabel is a guy, not maybe head coach, but I think he's a guy that could be headed out the door, and I like Vrabel a lot. He's a very good linebackers coach, so I don't know.
If he has a bad game and he goes into next year, and if it really sets a tone for next year, right? So I don't think Rick Smith is out this season, but I think going into next season, he has a lot less leniency. His line is super, super short going into next season. And if midway through, we're say 2-5.
We've had him since like 2006, I think. I think Rick Smith's been around since then. And we didn't fire our old GM. He retired or he resigned or whatever. I can't think of his name. I was so young when he quit the team, but just maybe Bob McNair is a really patient guy with his GMs. I mean, he's definitely let Rick Smith
there's a point where
run
you
for
get
a while.
two, patient.
I would have thought that would have been 2 years ago. We were two and
Yeah, but
14. Why didn't you just clean everyone? Why'd you leave him?
I don't know why he does the thing he do, to be honest.
If you were Bob McNair, wouldn't you have fired him? If you're gonna clean house, you clean
I would have.
everyone.
I would have. I personally, I don't like Rick Smith. I think he has had a lot of bust. I think we were talking about Ed Reed bust. What's some other bust you can think of?
Yeah. Well, not an insanely deal breaker, but Randy Bullock was definitely a bust.
Look where he's at now. I think that if you're going to and what sucks about this is it's a winning season, right? I mean, yeah, the wins were here and there, and we got lucky here and there. We're 9-7, or no, 9-7.
Yeah, we're 9-7.
I think we've had a winning season. It's hard to shuffle out coaches and GMs from a winning season, but I think if you're gonna do it, and if you're already saying Bill O'Brien's out the door, why not clean house on both, or give one last chance to get out, right? I think you've got all the pieces. I think right now we're definitely a win now mode for sure for the most part. Yeah, we could probably fix a few places, but for the most part, you're a win now kind of team. Why not, right? Why not bring somebody in that's going to win now?
I think so, more so just because we have a lot of aging vets. I mean, Kush isn't getting any younger. JJ is, I mean, these are his years, and we're just letting them go by so far. I mean, yeah, I agree. Something's got to get done. I mean, DeAndre Hopkins could be in a similar boat as Andre Johnson. He's definitely his best years. I don't think DeAndre has hit his best years yet. He's still very young.
He may not even hit his best years with us. I think he loves H-Town, but I think depending on what happens, he could
be after that payday. Yeah,
he could be, especially.
And Houston will pay their guys if they really like him. I mean, we dropped $100 million on JJ. I mean, we'll pay you if they really like you.
This season already with him. With DeAndre this season, I don't know. I don't know his future, to be honest with you. You asked me a year or two ago, especially last year. Oh yeah, he'll be on the team list for years. We'll sign him, no problem. We'll give him all the money he wants. And what happens? This year we don't give him the money. He plays poorly, but he plays poorly not because he's of his talent and his his effort, but mostly because of what he has around him. I don't know if he puts up with it too much with the star caliber he is.
I think a lot of it has to do with the Brock situation, though. I don't know. Brock has a team option to where we can basically drop him at the end of next season. Yeah, it'll definitely hit the cap. But I mean, you said it yourself. The NFL's a big money league. This is a win now league. I mean, if it means a few million, they'll do it. I mean, other organizations sure have.
Really big bust as a starter, and we do nothing, or he'll be the most expensive backup. And I love how all this conversation is slowly filtering its way back into Brock, because a lot of what this season was riding on was him.
Well, let's just transition into the next topic. What I had read an article about. There was a heated exchange last week in the Tennessee Titan game during the halftime. I guess Bill O'Brien had a very strong heated argument with Brock Osweiler. What do you think about that?
Man, it's not good, right? It's not good when you have that kind of debate on
it. It wouldn't bother me as much. It's week 17. This is a week before your playoff game. Like, this is the guy you paid,
at the college level. What happens? There was,
Yeah. Because a lot of those guys are just all full of themselves in college. I'm headed to the NFL. I don't care about you. I mean, it's the fact that it's happening here is pretty bad.
It really does speak poorly. And it shows a lot of, and I don't know who started the argument, because I personally didn't read or look at this. Can you tell me who started the argument?
It didn't even say who. It just said that they had a heated exchange. So I don't know if it was just a shouting match. I guess
in the beginning of the year, there was that one video where Bill O'Brien screaming at his players and screaming at his coaches, on the sideline that one time.
And he's a very on edge kind of person. That's his personality. So I don't know. It's just that's not the kind of thing. Brock is supposed to be our leader. I mean, obviously, I don't think he's proven to be, but it's just that's not a picture you paint in front of your guys that you lead out on the field.
And it also speaks to Brock's character, right? I mean, going into last year, his whole big debacle about him being pissy about being benched, I mean, then you go into this season and you get benched again, which speaks for itself kind of in a way. But then you get benched again, and then what? you have a yelling match with your head coach that you praised and was like, thank you for the job at the beginning of the year. I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, like I had mentioned to you like last week, I was very surprised that they had started Tom Savage. I thought Rick Smith and Bob McNair were gonna have a seat with Bill O'Brien and say, "Hey, listen, we paid this guy a lot of money. He's starting this next week against the Bengals, and that's just the way it's gonna roll." Whether or not Tom Savage pulled out that win, shockingly enough, Tom started, but I mean,
You
I don't
would,
know if that
yeah, but
stirred
you
up
would
a
have
little
had
bit.
so much. You would have had so much backlash, not from fans, which fans were obviously very upset with Brock all season. I was there during the Jags game.
Well, he got the standing
I was there.
ovation.
I
You were,
was there
yeah,
at
you
that
were at the
Jags
game
game. It
against
was
the Jags.
so loud in that stadium when Tom came out. It was ridiculous. And I think you would have got the backlash from the fans, but I also think you would have got a backlash from the players. If DeAndre had the kind of game he had at the end of that Jags game when Tom Savage came in, he was doing great. He had a lot of catches. He got a lot more of the action. And then you sit him for the second game. You would have had a lot of players like DeAndre saying, "Well, what's going on? Right? You're not giving me a chance. You're putting
Yeah,
somebody who's not going to give the team a chance in general." So I think you would have had a lot of backlash from players if.
but then I agree. I had even read an article that very next morning saying that if he didn't make the pull on Brock and put Tom in there, Bill O'Brien had ran the risk of potentially losing the locker room, and that's not something you want to do, especially on this final
It's
stretch
so
of the
weird to
season.
talk about that too because again, like I said, the playoffs were not like great playoff contender team. I don't think so.
Let's be honest.
We're
Let's be
not.
truthful with ourselves for a second. We're going to the playoffs 2 years in a row because of the luxury of the
Mm-hmm.
division we're in. I mean, you know
Everybody
that.
knows
I
it.
know
That's what
that.
I'm saying. But that's not
I mean,
that's
everyone
this
knows
is
it.
not the kind of conversations you want to be having in a team that is going to the playoffs. It's not. It's not. I
No,
mean, it's very sad. I don't know what's going on. I don't know what we're gonna do in the future. This draft class is gonna be interesting for sure.
I don't know what we're doing. I mean, we were very heavy offense last year, but our offense still
Yeah.
needs more work than the defense. So, do you hit offense hard 2 years in a row and hope that this year pans out a little bit
I think
better?
our defense is solid enough. I think we can get by with just
Our O
our
line,
O
I think,
line.
is
Yep.
what needs a lot of work. Don't get me wrong, Brock is at fault, but I think Brock could
Well,
get a
and that's why
little
I
bit
think you
more
go
help.
when you're talking about going offensive game. I think you go offensive heavy. I just think you get that line fixed.
Yeah, I mean, because if we build a Oakland Raider, Dallas Cowboy kind of offensive line, you could throw in almost anyone, and it'll just buy him enough time to just find that open guy, that check down pass, and be a lot more efficient for the offense. I mean, we went out and got Will Fuller. We traded up one pick, and we have a guy that's so inaccurate at
To
throwing
a
down
guy
the
who also
field,
is inaccurate in catching
so
balls too.
lanky. Yeah, don't get me wrong, he's got some butterfingers, but that was the baggage. We knew he was coming with that. That was in the scouting report, but we don't even get to utilize him.
I don't. And I want to transition to another topic. Something that just went down actually today was the talk that Will Fork possibly considering retirement after this year. Did you read about that?
Yeah, yeah, I read that. I
Yeah, or
actually read
yesterday.
that
I mean, and
yesterday.
you talk
I
about
did.
aging, vets, just that whole thing.
Yeah,
And I thought, yeah,
I give him a lot of respect. That's a hard position to play. You're taking a beating. Like, I mean, that position, you're getting like two or three people on you every single play, and that's just
he was
smash
already
mouth
considering about
football.
leaving anyways next year or last year. He was considering it.
Well, every so often when we're really, really struggling, like when we were on that 4 game losing streak this year and we were struggling like 2-5 last year, he's thrown in them kind of like shots and little digs at the organization because he's not really used to losing, in my opinion. He's always been with the Patriots. This isn't familiar with him. Like his first year here, I think he was here the first year in the Bill O'Brien era. Uh, we missed the playoffs, so that was new to him completely.
Well, but then you also get those like that indie game where he was bashing people that didn't stay for the game, and said, you didn't believe in us, blah 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 blah, stuff like that.
I can understand that. I mean, I can believe that. I personally don't understand how people can just get tickets to a game and just leave. I mean, it must be nice to be a season ticket holder. When I'm there, I stay till
Unless we
the
get
end.
blown out.
Maybe that's just me. Yeah, unless it's just really, really. But if there's a slim chance that there's a comeback, I'm there until Those tickets are expensive, man. I'm not staying and just leaving three quarters in. I don't have that luxury, I guess. I don't know about
Yeah,
you.
I agree.
So, yeah, it's definitely very sad to hear. I think he's instantly going to be a Hall of Famer, no doubt. Very funny character, kind of
Good
a
guy. Good
football
guy.
player. He's yeah, very good guy. I liked him a lot. He has a good demeanor to him. But let's be honest, he's a Patriot at heart. That's where he wants to be. I hope he retires with the Patriots because I know that's what he
Yeah.
probably wants deep down. That's where he's had all of his success at.
All right. So I'm going to transition to a little bit more Houston teams in general. I'm going to throw it over to Adam for some Rockets talk.
All right. I just wanted to little diversify this podcast. I mean, we're kind of starting a little bit towards the tail end of the football season, which is mostly what we're going to talk about, but I think it'd be fun, especially for social media, for you to follow us for some multiple sporting teams and just more than just Texans only. So I want to talk about the Rockets and maybe a little bit about the Astros. First off, I want to say the Rockets went 15-2 in December, tying a franchise record in wins. That's huge. I've watched the Rockets for as long as I can remember being a little kid. Never remembered winning 15 games in a month. That's insane. Mike D'Antoni won Western Conference Coach of the Month, rightfully so. I mean, I was one of the first guys that said that I didn't want him to be hired. He was definitely proved me wrong. He's had this team tailored towards the offense that he likes to run. He's very, very well fitted with James Harden here in Houston. I'm real happy with it. James Harden, unsurprisingly, won Western Conference Player of the Month. On New Year's Eve, he had a big breakout game with a triple-double, tying Wilt Chamberlain for the most points scored in a triple-double with 53 points. That's insane. I've never seen those kind of numbers, so you guys need to vote him into the All-Star starting lineup for sure. It was a real big snub that he didn't make the All-NBA team last year.
And I'll say this. Sorry,
go
I
ahead.
don't know as much as about Rockets as Adam over here, but I think James Harden this whole season really has been a big uplift compared to last season for sure.
And you can even see it. I don't know if you watch too many games, but just his smile, his demeanor, he's just a lot more there. The team's got each other's backs this year. There's a lot of drama I read in articles, so it's definitely a lot more fun to watch. It's a good time to be a Rockets fan, hoping maybe get a little bit deeper into the playoffs. Not trying to say anything, of course, because we know how that goes if you're a real Houston fan. But we climbed to number 3 in the NBA power rankings. That's pretty huge. I've never seen us really get climbed that high. Even when we went 2 years ago to the Western Conference Finals, I don't know if we got pretty up there. We were a 2 seed when it was all said and done, but this is some good territory for us. I'm really happy where we're at. And just one last thing to maybe transition to a little bit of Astros baseball real quick. It is off season, but George Springer did hold out from the World Baseball Classic. He decided that he wanted to focus more on the upcoming season and didn't want to focus too much on other personal goals and wanted to make sure his body was fully ready for this upcoming season and make a run for a potential World Series pennant. Yeah, and that's all I got for this extra Houston sport talk. Trying to keep you all connected with the Astros and Rockets.
And I want to remind you guys that we are a newer podcast, so if you want to help us grow, follow us at _HurryUp. And also like our Facebook page. It's just the HurryUp. I want you to tweet us some stuff that we might talk about.
Some ideas, some things that maybe you want to hear.
Things you want to hear about, we can help branch this off and really tailor it towards the audience. I know we're specifically targeting Houston audiences for sure.
But if they want us to break out of the realm a little bit, I mean, it's not like we can't do that, especially for the NFL.
Yeah, we want this to grow for sure. So why don't you hit us up at the _HurryUp. Any closing statements, Adam?
Thanks for watching, guys.